Buonasera per un altro dei nostri incontri per questi temi HR, soprattutto quello che riguarda temi molto attuali del Covid-19. Prima di entrare nel vivo di questa nostra serata con Natalie, la nostra National Director of Studies, e con me stesso, Filippo, Corporate Account di MyES per Milano. Per chi non ci conosce, volevo velocemente introdurre MyES. MyES è una scuola di inglese che costruisce i propri corsi per aziende o privati, indipendentemente, partendo dai loro bisogni. Sulla base di questi bisogni noi ovviamente costruiamo poi tutto il percorso, eventuali corsi di inglese, oppure workshop, oppure qualunque altra cosa che riteniamo sia la più adatta per soddisfare i bisogni che ci sono stati presentati. Al momento siamo presenti più o meno in tutta Italia, siamo presenti anche a Lione, a Valencia, e anche grazie a quello che abbiamo dovuto fare per poter affrontare con successo la situazione attuale, ormai siamo presenti online e siamo in grado quindi di erogare corsi in tutto il mondo. Andando più nello specifico ai nostri webinar che stiamo presentando tutte le settimane, tutti i martedì alle 19 per essere precisi, sono un assaggio fondamentalmente del nostro metodo, di come noi cerchiamo di essere sempre molto pratici, efficaci e operativi nel nostro modo di insegnare la lingua, come vedrete stasera, dando subito degli strumenti che possono essere messi in uso, possono essere utilizzati immediatamente dai nostri partecipanti. E soprattutto questa qui è una serie che abbiamo istituito per chi lavora nell'HR e deve occuparsi di queste faccende. Adesso passo la parola a Natalie, che in inglese ovviamente porterà avanti il resto della serata. Natalie, it's over to you.
Thanks, Filippo. Good evening, everyone. Okay, so this is our third webinar about this subject. And if it's the first time that you're watching, we do this every Tuesday, as Filippo said. The reason we're doing this is because we are in a unique situation now. And we obviously work with a lot of HR managers or managers who have English-speaking staff. And they requested this. So we just wanted to provide this extra help for all of you to give you really specific vocabulary. Now, obviously, it's related to COVID, but the vocabulary and the phrases that we will help you with are going to be useful at work in any situation. But we're also including and focusing on COVID. There is very particular language at the moment, which you might need to put into emails. You want to make sure you're remaining professional. So it's really important that we cover typical phrases you can use in these situations. You might be presenting to the board in English. You might be having to have a video call with your staff to talk about returning to the office and need specific language for that. If you're not having to face this at the moment, most of you I hear are, but if you're not, this will be a useful 30 minutes every week to listen to English being spoken by a native speaker in a work context. So, you know, feel free to come listen while you're doing comments if you have a question or a request. We're going to be continuing to do this just to give you help. Thank you so much for your feedback so far. As Filippo said, we work all around Italy, also in France and Spain. If you have any questions, you can just ask us. We're very approachable and friendly. As a school, we don't just offer grammar lessons. We're really focused on communication. So that's our reason for being. We want people to be able to speak in English and also to move forward in English at work very quickly. So we don't just say, okay, here's an intermediate course, off you go. We follow our students. We make sure that they are making the progress they need to be able to speak and communicate in English. This is really important for us. And when we're planning a course, we design it with you. So it's not a very standard course and we just say, okay, we're selling you 5 courses. We talk to you. We might talk about maybe doing a workshop with your staff or You might tell us that they have particular sales meetings and we will provide material to help them with this. You could have a particular business model. You name it, we have done it. So isn't that true, Filippo? We've done just about every industry in every way. We've helped them with their English.
Absolutely.
We're lucky to be
I would say from finance to fashion to mechanics, all of them.
Yes, yeah. So we've had an incredible range of students, and we understand that the needs are completely different. So English has a huge vocabulary, which can be very challenging sometimes. The grammar is not so difficult, but the vocabulary, I mean, there are 4,000 more words in English, for example, than in Italian. So you can become an intermediate speaker and then find you still don't understand in meetings particular vocabulary. And it can be a bit frustrating because you think, I can speak English. Why can't I understand what's being said? So we really make sure that we give you something that will suit what you need. And that's another reason we're doing these very particular webinars, because we have been asked, please, can you give us help with something relating to the period at the moment? And here we are. It's no problem for us to give you 30 minutes every week, and hopefully you'll find this helpful. Please give us feedback in the comments, or you can email us as the email below on the screen. Okay, so corporate@myes.it. Okay, so feel free to ask any questions or give feedback. Okay, let's have a look today at what we're going to go through. We are talking about facts. So a lot of obviously what HR has to do at the moment, or management, is just talk about facts. So, saying this is the situation, this is the policy, this is what we need to do now that we're in this situation. These are the regulations you need to follow. I mean, we're very much talking about something that is not something to debate. If it is in the decree, so in English we would say the decree, we have to tell our staff this is the situation. So we thought this would be a useful subject for this week. If you didn't see last week, we talked about empathy. Completely different subject, equally as important. So obviously, psychologically and emotionally, people are going through a lot at the moment. If you missed that video, it is still on this channel, so you can watch that after this one or anytime you want to. And that helps with giving particular language when you need to empathize at work. So staying professional. Okay. So please feel free to introduce yourself in the comments too. Otherwise, you can just listen. Okay, let's have a look. Today, talking about facts, there's a lot of really particular vocabulary in this area. So we will be talking about a lot of vocabulary in English today. Okay, very particular phrases that you can use again and again. I always say, if you can, make yourself a sheet of paper with these particular phrases, put it in your drawer, and it is there for you to pull out and use when you have an email, a meeting. You're prepared. You can speak in a really professional, high-level way in English. This can be really useful. You're probably going to be saying the same thing a lot. So once you've mastered this, you're in a good place. Okay. So obviously, also here we're talking about social distancing. So this is a phrase that everyone is hearing a lot. Isn't that right, Filippo?
Absolutely. I don't think there's any place where you don't have to do it right now.
Exactly. So social distancing is going to come up frequently. And this other word, hygiene, a bit of a strange word, but when we talk about hygiene, we're talking about things being clean. So at the moment, obviously, things need to be disinfected regularly. So you might hear staff talking about hygiene, that they're concerned about hygiene at work. They mean they're talking about how clean is the office going to be when we arrive? How frequently is the office going to be clean? Are there any regulations for washing hands, disinfecting hands, maybe shaking hands with clients? Is it okay not to do this? So hygiene is an important word to know, okay? And the pronunciation is just 2 syllables, hygiene, okay? Now we have some typical phrases. So when you need to communicate a policy, okay, you could be talking about your staff returning to the office soon, which might be happening for many of you at the moment. Here are some typical phrases you could use. You could use them in an email, but you can also say them in a video call. Obviously, you know, these you can use face-to-face, but at the moment that's not so common. So you could start with in an effort. So this is a nice way to say we have this objective. So in an effort to limit prolonged interaction. So interaction that is more than a few seconds. So contact with another person. This is how we would say it. We would say prolonged interaction in English, okay? Reduce the risk of exposure. So we're talking about exposure to the virus or risk. Okay, and we talk about the workplace, probably as managers and HR managers, you know that we use this vocabulary to talk about the office. So we say workplace. It's useful because you could be talking to people, some of them that work in offices, some in factories, some in shops. It's not necessarily an office. So workplace will cover any place where you have staff working. Okay, so it's easiest to put this in emails or to use this. And we talk about practicing social distancing. So in English, we don't say doing social distancing. We talk about practicing it. Sounds a bit strange because practicing is usually like training, but this is how we use this verb. We say we practice social distancing. Okay, and then you're probably talking about strategies. So one of the most effective strategies for limiting the spread of contagion. So spread obviously is the virus not being in one place. It's saying it's going to start going to other people. So the company has specific strategies for stopping the spread of the virus. So you will often hear people talking about spread, and that means going from me to another person to another person. Okay, so this is an important word. Human to human contact, and you're going to be talking about flexibility a lot. And one word that is very useful in this particular period is staggered, because you will be talking about people coming in at different times. So it's likely that people will not come back, everyone at the same time. Instead, you will be staggering the return of people. So this team comes back on Mondays and Wednesdays. Another team is going to be in the office on Tuesdays and Thursdays. To stagger. So here we're talking about staggered shifts, which means, for example, okay, Filippo, you will go into the office between 9 and 1, and Natalie will go into the office 1:30 to 6:30. So we're staggering the shift. We're staggering the time that we are in the office. We are not there at the same time. Okay, so this is something you will hear, and obviously it'd be great if you can also use it. Okay, staff will be split into teams that will be working from home on alternate days. Again, very particular vocabulary for this period. So split, divided, you could also say. Alternate days, so one day off, one day on. Okay. Here, when we talk about workstations, is that clear to you, Filippo? When we talk about workstations, what that means in English?
Well, if I'm not mistaken,
What
we're
do you
talking
think of
about...
when you hear workstations?
Yes, it makes me think of, your desk, your chair, your small environment, not even the office, just the chair, the desk, and the little space you use to put your things that you need in the immediate environment where you are.
Yeah, exactly. No, perfect. 10 points to you.
Thank you.
Exactly. So, yes, when we talk about workstations, we mean the area, your own little area, where you have your computer, your chair, your desk. So as you may find, and I know this is a huge job for all of you, probably you will have to rearrange furniture in the office. So each workstation has enough distance between the next person. Okay, so we talk about workstations. So instead of desk, It's a bit more professional to say workstation. This is vocabulary we would use at work. Okay. And then we talk about hand sanitizer dispensers being placed, which is a more polite way of saying put. So put is a little bit more casual. So if you say will be placed in prominent places around the workplace. So again, it's just you're increasing the level of your English by using this type of vocabulary. So instead of saying office, saying workplace. Instead of saying desk, saying workstation. It's much more professional sounding to use this type of vocabulary in this context. Okay, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments, or you can email us after. Okay, so hopefully you've got most of that down now. Okay, let's have a look. Another thing HR managers have said to us is, obviously, travel in recent months has completely stopped, and they're often asked by their foreign staff, okay, what is the situation? Because especially if you're in something like sales, your staff might be very reliant on traveling. They're going to be asking a lot of questions about this. What can they do? What can't they do? So obviously there are set ways you can explain these policies. And you want to remind them that you're doing this to protect them and other people. So you could start by saying, to help protect staff and minimize risk. So minimize or reduce are the same, they're synonyms. So in order to increase your vocabulary, you can use both of these, minimize or reduce risk, something we're saying a lot at the moment, of course. The following restrictions are in place until further notice. So in English, when you say a restriction is in place, it means you have to follow that regulation. There is no discussion or maybe you do, maybe you don't. If a restriction is in place, it is forbidden to do something. Okay. And then you have to provide further information about this. Okay. So for example, you could be talking about international travel, or you could be talking about domestic travel, just as an example. Okay, again, you can see this word spreading. So this is something that will come up a lot at the moment in vocabulary. So you're talking about the virus moving and increasing over an area. Okay. We will regularly be asking staff to monitor themselves. So to check themselves. So to monitor yourself is to, make sure you're feeling well, you don't have a cough, you don't have a high temperature. This is something that's really important, obviously, to say to staff at the moment. So you could be saying to your staff, please make sure you are monitoring yourself regularly, or yourselves, if it's plural, if there are many people in your meeting. Okay. One thing that's quite important in English, which sometimes gets confused, is that we often say in English that we have a temperature, which obviously doesn't necessarily translate, does it, Filippo? Because that wouldn't make sense, would it, in Italian? If you just
No, it
have
wouldn't.
a temperature, you would.
Of course we do. We always have a temperature. The problem, obviously, is what temperature we have.
Yes, exactly. And this can be really confusing for people that are not native speakers, because we, in English, if we ever say, I'm not sure I should come into the office because I have a temperature, it sounds like nonsense, but in English it means I have a fever. So Americans speaking English are more likely to say fever. They often use this, but actually British English, and I'm British, we never say fever. So I would never say I have a fever. I would always say I have a temperature. And that means a problem. It means I have a high temperature, I have a fever. So if anyone asks you a question and says, I have a temperature, you need to be worried and tell them not to come in to work. Okay, so that's really important. People might also say they have a low-grade fever, which means, again, they do have a fever. It's just not very serious. It's not out of control. But in these circumstances, of course, you would be saying, please don't come into the office. Okay. Pronunciation, a word that's always really difficult for non-native speakers of English is cough. So you can see here it says in the last paragraph, if they develop even a mild cough. So it sounds like an F. Mild cough. Okay, so as I always say, the first thing about this vocabulary for you is to understand it, so that if someone says it, if a member of your staff says it, you understand very easily in meetings with your staff. That's the first most important thing. Don't worry so much about using it, because that's the second step. Okay, so it's more likely if you have English speaking staff that they're going to be telling you something and you don't want to look unprofessional by saying, I don't understand anything you're saying. So things like cough, this is what you're listening out for. Someone saying, I have a cough and a temperature, which is bad in the situation. So those are things to listen out for. And as you get more confident with the vocabulary, obviously, then you can start to use it, which is fantastic. Okay. Let's have a look. Okay. So here we have, we're going to just look quickly at the difference between languages we use to give facts and the difference with language that we use to give opinions. Because obviously, as in a professional work environment, you don't want to sound like, well, I think this. You need to be saying, this is the situation. You must do this. You have to follow this. We will. Very often at the moment, you will be referring to external regulations. So you're going to be using a lot more of typical language. For example, according to the, so here we would be saying, according to the government decree, maybe, according to current regulations. This is something that will be used a lot, because you're not talking about your internal policies at the moment. You're talking about something set by the government, or even the World Health Organization, which in English we call the WHO, the World Health Organization. So when you hear people talking about the WHO, it's not the band. But yes, so you're often going to be referring to external policies. So it really is fact. This isn't something we're creating that we're flexible on. We can't be flexible. Okay, so you will find that it's helpful to say things such as you should, you must, the company will. So the company will provide, for example. So the company will provide a hand sanitizer in the office. The company will do everything to protect your safety. Okay, so it's definite. We are committing to doing this. Okay, it's not my opinion. It's not open for discussion. We will do that. As a matter of fact, often also used in other language. So, as a matter of fact, you should not come to work if you have a temperature. Okay. And then you'll be referring to the decree. So you could be saying that the decree allows this and it permits that. However, you cannot do this. So you're saying this is not our policy. This is the regulation you must follow according to the decree. Okay. Let's have a look. So, okay. Finally, we have opinion language, which of course is different. In this situation, you want to avoid using this because it sounds weaker, of course. So if you say, obviously you want to avoid it, I guess, because this sounds like I think so, but I'm not sure. As far as I know, again, you sound uncertain. So all of these, you will sound like you are not sure of the rules and regulations, okay? So here again, you have some stronger language towards the end. So I'm absolutely certain, or without a doubt. But just remember in English, this very much is giving your opinion. So you're not talking about objectively referring to the decree. You are giving your opinion. You're influencing the results of the decree or the government issued regulations. So you probably want to avoid this language as much as possible. The only time you will want to use it is if you do want to avoid committing to a strong answer. So you could say, as far as I know, yes, that's fine. If you want to be deliberately vague. And sometimes that will happen, won't it, Filippo? I mean, sometimes you need to be vague because you don't want to say something absolutely certain.
Oh, that's definitely the situation. Yes, that's definitely the case. And also, sometimes you have to wait. I think these expressions are good when you're waiting for a new decree to come out or you're waiting for instructions. So you could actually say, I'm fairly confident, or I think so, and so on and so forth, as far as I know. So you're expecting something to happen, but you can say, I cannot be sure about it until we see the decree or whatever else that's going to tell us how things actually are.
That's an excellent point, actually, because at the moment, it's like this, isn't it? That we have an idea of what will be coming next, but we really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's true. I mean, in that situation, you can't say in 2 weeks when they make the announcement, this is what will happen. So yes, this might, again, be a good time to use opinion language. So you say, to the best of my knowledge, we will be reopening. However, I don't know. I can't say for sure. I think that's, yes, a really good point, actually. Yes, so we've just very quickly covered some really typical language that you might need at the moment. I hope it's helpful. Please give us feedback. Your feedback so far has been really helpful because it tells us what we need to help you with. And that's what we're here for, to help. So I'll pass you back over to Filippo, but we will be here again, obviously, next week at 7:00 for 30 minutes. It's a good opportunity to hear and practice your English with a native speaker and hopefully increase your vocabulary and your phrases in English, especially in a work situation. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Natalie. E volevo anche ringraziare tutti voi per averci seguito anche questa sera. Spero ancora una volta che abbiate trovato utile, interessante, se non addirittura divertente, anche se ovviamente un webinar può essere divertente fino a un certo punto, però vi abbiamo dato, spero, degli strumenti che chi di voi debba usare l'inglese per gestire la situazione, gestire lo staff nelle vostre aziende, possa usarle immediatamente. Come ha detto Natalie, martedì prossimo sarà il prossimo, quindi vi aspettiamo alle 19, sempre qui sullo stesso canale, e se nel frattempo avete o delle domande, anche dei dubbi, anche avete bisogno di un consiglio su come dire o scrivere qualcosa, sentitevi liberi di contattarci, ci fa solo piacere darvi una mano. Se invece volete fare una chiacchierata un po' più strutturata, potete scriverci a corporate@myes.it e possiamo organizzare un incontro, al momento probabilmente online o al telefono, o comunque in altri casi di persona, per discutere più nel dettaglio cosa vi serve. Natalie, do you want to have a final word of greeting everyone?
Thanks very much for watching, and also for those that watched this after. I know a lot of people did last week. Yes, let us know if there's anything we can help with. Okay, that's what we're here for. So have a good evening. Thank you.
Ok, thank you everyone e buonasera a tutti.